Hello, welcome to Scrapbooking Station. In Silhouettes 2, I've got tons of demos, tons of samples. So, even if you haven't watched Silhouettes 1, I think I get the gist of this. So I'm going to put the camera over my shoulder and we'll get started. I'm going to begin this video with a 15-second recap of Silhouette Styles 1. So in all cases, it was black matte, cut a shape out of it, and from the shape, use die cuts to cut images and then plug them back into the mat. And that was my 15-minute Silhouette Styles 1 video. You can always go back and watch that. So first off, and 2, I'm not going to use any more black, and we're going to probably focus a little bit more on frames rather than mats. And so I've got this filigree kind of style frame that's got a centerpiece. And so technique's going to be exactly the same as in 1, in that I'm going to go ahead and cut the frame with the center, and then we're going to want to focus on this piece. So now that I've got this centerpiece, I'm ready to do my little silhouette technique. And so this time I've got a clock and gear sort of die, so it's going to be a steampunk looking card. The only thing I want to be sure is that the 12 is at the top. And so this is obviously a lot larger. I can move it anywhere, but I already know when I compose my card design, I'm going to have something up in this corner. So I am going to cut it down like so, maybe up a little bit. So something like that. When I do that, I'm going to get a piece, just the gold, and then I just decided to mat it, because when you see my card base, which I've already put together, so there's that gold frame, and I just put it on several panels and wove some ribbon through it. Now this piece is going to exactly come back into here. So let me put that down, and then we'll take a look at some of the other embellishments. When I started editing that last segment and I placed this in position, I kind of noticed that the gold wasn't popping down here in the corner because things were busy. And so all I did was, before I placed it, I actually set it down, marked where I needed to color in, and then used my marker to go ahead and color in this space and then put it down. And then once this was over here, I decided to add some balance because I've got this dark olive over here, so colored in a couple holes up here. Anyway, finishing up on the embellishments is just a bunch of sequins. So I've got gold, kind of that olive color, and I didn't have black sequins, and as long as I was coloring, I took some colored sequins and just used a Sharpie marker to make them black. And of course have my sentiment up here on a couple more tags. And that finishes out the front. And then on the inside, have another die cut just using this pattern paper and then stamping. So let's talk about these materials. All the die cuts are off of eBay, so that was easy. And then the pattern paper is all digital. It's actually a Debbie Moore pattern, so I used those. This is gold linen from Create and Craft. And then the stamp I used was from, first off, Steampunk. So this is a set from Paper Wishes. Got a lot of great kind of time and gear sentiments on it, so I used that. And then on the inside was this stamp, Reverse Words, from Stampin' Up. And I know I said I wasn't going to do black. Well, I'm not going to demo black, but I did like that design, and so all I did was do it in black. And then these are just all the same things, except I've used steampunk papers from Paper Wishes for the backing. Actually, I've got photos of all the pieces, so I'll leave that along with photos of these two finished cards. Next, I think I want to move into the cameo. Okay, in the second project, my oval is going to be a cameo kind of looking silhouette. And so I've got this relatively ornate oval that is this outside piece, and then an inside. I've got what is my cameo, and right now she's holding a dog, and I want to substitute that with a flower or a set of flowers. So first thing, I'm going to prepare the outside. So I just die cut this and cut out the center, and then cut another one in this lace cardstock, and so that's going to make the base of my focal. I'm going to approach this a different way, and this doesn't always work, but it will in this case. So I've got this piece. I went ahead and die cut it. So she's going to be something situated like so. And then I've got instead of several flowers, I've got one bunch of flowers. Actually, it's kind of easier to see this way. And so what I wanted to do is cover up my dog, or enough of my dog where, I mean, if the ears are poking out, or I can see the little indentures for the ears, I'm not that worried. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it something like this. Actually, it's going to be reversed, so it's going to be down like this. So maybe like so. And then I'll be back. Okay, after I've got the bouquet cut out, I want to cut another one. And I'm going to do a couple things, because now might be an interesting time to add another color. So first off, I cut it out in the same cardstock. And so if I plugged it in like so, you know, that would look good. And then I went ahead and cut it out in a pattern, and then ahead with this piece. So whichever one you end up choosing, I am probably going to go with the white to match the frame. So the next piece is, and I think I'm going to have her leaning this way. So now I want to take these two. I'm actually going to secure the back with tape, but what happens now is, I hope I get it right, because now I'm going to take my oval and run these two pieces exactly together. So I want to make sure they are fitting in just like they're going to on the finished focal, and cut her this way. Once that's done, she's ready to go inside the oval, and I just want to be really careful that I find the place on here that exactly fits. And so I'm going to play with that a little bit, because I don't want to be off. And then I'm going to go ahead and put her on my card base, which I've already made. So let me do all that, and then I'll be back with the finished piece. So here she is, all finished. So very two-dimensional. I added some Nouveau drops along in a dazzle border on the edges, and then just a sentiment just for you. And then on the inside, kind of repeating a lot of the same elements and patterns. So let's talk about some of these materials. First off, I've got a couple of tattered lace dies. So for this bunch of flowers, and actually the woman with her dog is Esme and Buttons, both from Tattered Lace. I've got my Spellbinders frames. This is oval floral frames, so it's a set of nested frames. The pattern paper that I use behind this lace is a piece of adorable scoreable. And then I use Stampin' Up! Solid cardstock. I believe this is sky blue, so the pattern and the solids. So that's how I made that. Now this is not a new design. Actually, I did it in 3 dimensions, so if you've never tried this technique to make things 2 dimensions, take a design that you like in 3. So this is layered flowers instead of the flat flowers. So I'm going to leave pictures of that, and then I've got a short story to share, and then some more samples. So my short story begins with this project, and I saw someone promoting a large inset lily cutting die. I think it was like 5 by 7. And I thought, ooh, I do like that card design. What do I have that will work? And so I've got an inset cutting die. It's this one. I bought it off of eBay. And so all I did was split it, because I was going to have this center border anyway, covering everything up. So split it in half. And so that was a way I could use to recreate the design without spending a bunch of, or more money, on another cutting die. So, which is kind of where we're going to with the rest of this. And then I thought, well, I've got this cutting die, but what if you don't have a cutting die like that? What if you just have a lot of little cutting dies? And so let me just bring in these. So I've got Blissful Blooms from Tattered Lace, and so I've got plants, and then I added a butterfly, and then I've got a bow over here, but that's kind of beside the point. My point is, I can create the look of this die using perhaps something you've already got in your stash. And so in this one, I'm building it exactly the same way. So staying inside the frame, cutting each piece, placing it, then cutting the next. And then over here, moving outside the frame. So what I want to do now is something probably a little less intricate, and so it's easier to watch. And I'm going to do something tropical. So let me bring in those materials, and I'll be back. Okay, to start this third project, what I did was, first off, I cut myself a frame, and then we're going to use this piece to plug in all the different die cuts to make it look like a single die cut. But I want to go ahead and introduce kind of moving outside of your frame. And so I've got this flamingo that I want to position here. And I'm going to cut it. And this way I leave this piece behind, this full piece, where I can put my tropical leaves and in the green. And I'm also going to replace him in pink. So when I cut it, and you're going to become more aware of this as you do more of these, the little pieces that are left behind, you want to kind of keep that to a minimum. So I know I'm going to have the piece inside the little crook of his legs, and then this one out here, which I'm going to have to bring back. And so what I've got is the same size as the outer frame, and that's going to be the backing for this whole piece, like so. So let me take this over to my die cutting machine, again making sure that these are exactly positioned how I want them. If you want to attach the back, you can, just to make sure that that is secure when you're running through the, in this case, flamingo. So let me do that, and I'll be back, and then we'll take a look at the first and other cuts that have to go on in here. Okay, I took those two photos so you can see first off how I was cutting it, and then I bring over every little niblet until I position this. And so when I positioned it, well, first I put the outside frame onto the back with this piece intact. So having this on the inside, because your frame, you want to make sure it's still square. So again, it's fitting right onto this back piece of pattern paper. And then I want to leave this piece in, stick in my flamingo, and then add the little niblet. And then there was actually a tiny little sliver, and I'm pretty anal about my crafting, but you know what, I just took a Sharpie, not a Sharpie marker, a Stampin' Right marker in the same color, so this is Wild Wasabi, and just pop that little bit of color in there for that missing piece of frame. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and work just with this piece and possibly this corner if I want to cut something in there. So I'm going to put this aside. So this is the beginning of that frame piece. Now I kind of want to position my leaves. Now I am going to split this in half in order to put a band through here with a greeting on it. So I'm going to kind of keep that in mind. I don't want, you know, just the tiniest little sliver crossing over this midpoint. So I'm going to cut this first, come back, put it in, and then probably something like this with this larger fern. So let me go do that, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've got the finished photo of my card, and all I just wanted to continue to share is that as you're placing each of what I call them puzzle pieces, each of your pieces, make sure you're keeping this innie to position them, or you're going to get off really quick. So anyway, that's just a little tip and trick. Okay, I am going to slice this in half. So let me put this on a straight line, because I want to take a look and see if I'm going to lose pieces, because they're just tiny little slivers. And really, I'm not terribly worried about it. So I put this across the center. This big piece is going to stay. I know this section is going to stay on this side. I think that's large enough where it's going to stick, and this one and this one. Not that you couldn't put them back, but it's a lot easier if you don't. So let me let the glue set. I use liquid glue, so I got a little bit of wiggle room because I don't want to slice it while it's even just a little bit wet. Also, I'm going to figure out the panels for my card, so I'll be back with that. In finishing up the piece, I ended up deciding to go with a sort of diagonal cut. So I went across like that. And on the inside, I just have an insert. And so you're like, well, maybe this you know, it's a little bit of trouble. And it is a little persnickety, but it's like building a puzzle. But the thing about it is, if I want to do it in a different orientation and a different size, I can. Put it into a different shape, I can. Now, if I had to make 10 of them, I probably wouldn't want to do it this way. Of course, the other thing is, it can be very simple. So I saw a cutting die similar. It was much smaller. It was basically a heart with love as one cutting die. And so I just used my two. So I've got, actually it was nested hearts here, and the word love, and kind of just touched into the edge of my heart to create this one. If you saw my video, the last quick card video, or card design video,
It was this one using specialty materials, and this is that really large gears and clocks cutting die, and I just picked the portions I wanted to create my threesome here. So a lot more versatile, and of course, you know, you're not spending 20 bucks on a very specialized die that's one size. Okay, let me talk about some of the materials in that last project. So I've got some Tutto dies here. It's a flamingo and then the tropical leaves. Really handy. My little letters came in with Aloha from Stampin' Up. Of course, I had my wild wasabi in there. And the pattern paper came from Hunky Dory. This is a craft stack Tropicanorama. So it's got a lot of parrots and flamingos and tropical pattern paper. Okay, let me clear this away, leave you photos of those projects. I'm going to move into the last section, which is raised frames.
So, I hate to do this to you again, but we've got plenty of samples for you to play with. So go ahead and play with that technique, because next, well, first off, I want to go to a structure. So waterfall, I've never made a waterfall card, and if you see my videos, we talk about the relationship between all these elements. So it's not my size, we make it your size. I've got a sketch I want to do, and then we're going to go back to Silhouettes 3. Yeah, I'm going to make Silhouettes 3, and we are going to focus strictly on frames, strictly on scrapbook pages, and then also home decor under glass. So I hope you stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to. Anyway, I thank you for watching.